And welcome to our episode of To The Point, where we discuss a number of different things. Today we're going to be focusing on the tourism sector, and we're going to be talking about how we can reinvigorate the tourism sector in Egypt that has been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, as has been the tourism sector around the world. Where at its height we had approximately 13 million tourists coming into Egypt, and in 2020 we only had 3.5 million tourists coming in. To talk to us a bit more about this and about how we can reinvigorate the tourism industry, we're joined today by Dr. Nagham Mohammed, the Regional Director for Marketing and Sales of a group of hotels and also the co-founder of the NGO Tourism Culture of a Nation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Before we start off with the actual show itself, we're going to take a look at a report and the effort of reviving the tourism industry in Egypt that has been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities has engaged in several strategies to reinvigorate the industry, and this includes creating a digital platform for the ministry that will allow tourists to interact and learn more about the country. Let's take a look.
Minister of Tourism and Antiquities Khalid Al-Anani and the Minister of Communications and Information Technology Amr Talat met on Saturday to discuss digital transformation projects. During the meeting, they discussed integration and development of the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities technological portals, as well as the creation of a mobile application to provide services to tourists. This plan intends to make information about Egypt's natural history, civilization and tourist hotspots easily and readily available for them. The application will provide a digital map for visiting tourists. This is just one of the many strategies the Ministry of Tourism is creating to revitalize the tourism industry in Egypt. One other strategy the ministry is doing to attract tourism is the Enjoy Your Winter in Egypt initiative. The initiative, launched by the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities in coordination with the Ministry of Civil Aviation and the Egyptian Hotel Association, started from January 15th and will last until February the 28th. As part of this initiative, domestic airline round-trip ticket prices from Cairo to Luxor, Aswan, Sharm el-Sheikh, Hurghada, Taba and Mas Alam, and from Alexandria to Luxor and Aswan are set to flat rate of 1,500 to 2,000 Egyptian pounds, or nearly 96 to 128 US dollars, including taxis. Nearly 114 hotels are participating in the initiative in categories of 3, 4 and 5 stars, who are offering discount rates for accommodations. Officials have been unveiling new archaeological discoveries in an effort to revive visitor numbers and hope that the delayed opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum next to the pyramids, expected later this year, will help the sector recover. Tourism accounts for up to 15% of Egypt's national output and is a key source of foreign currency.
Now, welcome back, and thank you again for joining us, Dr. Nagham. Thank you so much for joining us. The first question that I want to ask you is about the tourism industry in Egypt. Obviously, it has been hit very hard, and from what I've read, it has seen about a 70% dip in its revenues. How has this sector continued to survive through this pandemic?
That's a good start, of course. If we talk about the UNWTO, which is World Tourism Organization, they have put recently, end of January, a general figure that tourism have reduced by 74%. Adding to that, you have between 100 million to 130 million jobs are in risk, which is related definitely to the tourism. It's not only in Egypt, it's worldwide problem, worldwide epidemic that's happening. And we should not think that we are already far from the corona, or we're getting into an end. Such pandemic issues would take, and again, it's according to the UNWTO, it would take like 2.5 years in order to come back into good figures, which is similar to 2019, which was quite high in the whole world. So this is one part, and maybe it could go until according to what they have done as surveys and measuring statistics and so on, until 2024. Though We're still hoping that we can work on things that can make us pick up on business. We do have some good things related to Egypt that could help us.
Yes.
And again, it's with Corona, customer has been cautious about social distance, being in an open air areas, which we have here in Egypt. So if we could work on such ideas, preserving sustainability of tourism,
Yes.
we could definitely have good things happening. Back to your question, of course, we have been affected.
Yes.
Like the rest of the world, though we had better figures, I would say, or we are on the medium area of Corona. So, and due to the very high weather and the open air and so on, and the measures that the country has been performing and taking actions about and so on, we are quite in a stable condition compared to the figures that you read about in Europe and so
Yes.
on, though we're still hit. On the other hand, due to such measures that we have been taking, we have some resuming of flights like KLM, like Russian flights, Aeroflot, other flights and so on. In addition to pushing hard, there is a lot of actions towards the local market in order to push the local markets to move, because again, they're not moving outside.
Yes.
Because of the measures of the Corona, of the whole circumstances.
Yes.
So this as well would influence the revenues and the results of hotels, travel agents and so on, whatever related business to the tourism. So mainly it's going out of the FITs that are flying right now, some at their own risk, some feeling that this is an area where you see the sun, where you could enjoy open air, you have the social distancing and so on. And in addition to the local markets. Adding to that, there is certain efforts made in general, marketing-wise for Egypt, and social marketing as well added to that, about efforts that have been made, whether it's the new treasures that Egypt has been announcing and putting some
Yes.
things in order to make the customers feel interested or enthusiastic to come and fly to Egypt.
But what I want to get at is how, I mean, there are big hotels that can keep themselves afloat for a year. But what about the people that work in the tourism sector that are considered maybe small or medium-sized businesses? How did they manage to get through this lull in the industry itself? Was there a push from the ministry, for instance? Or?
There is a push and some initiatives that has been taken by the banking sector in relation, of course, to the tourism and to the minister, where you are delaying your debts, you're delaying your whatever electricity, water payments, bills, and so on. Though there is people who could not survive as well, because it's not like what happened earlier in the economic recession. Again, back to United Nations, WTO, it was only 4%. This one is 74% reduction.
Yes.
So there is no comparison between this and that, not only in hotels, but even the recession is happening economy-wise, so there is no comparison whatsoever. And of course, a lot of people did not survive, and they stopped or standstill position right now until things would go, or they have changed, like what we hear always, that some of the professionals who are working in the tourist field could go into educating, because it's language based and so on, until things go back to its normal, or at least move a bit slightly.
Can we go back to the idea that you were saying that we're trying to market and attract tourists during a pandemic? I mean, people have been stuck at home around the world and they need a break. the UAE has done a very good job in attracting people. Is this something that we also want to do? That we want to attract tourists during this pandemic, be like, come here, there's the sun, the sea, and enjoy your time, and we're completely safe and we're taking all the precautions that we need? Or are we stricter than what Dubai is doing?
We shouldn't be stricter. It's absolutely correct. What they are doing is very good. They have been showing on the media, on the social media, for example, that they are having a small robot testing the people who is wearing the mask, who is not, and they can recognize who is the person, and you could find a fine while you're going out because you haven't been wearing your mask, for example. So we could do such ideas that could help pushing people who have been locked at home to go, because again, sometimes you say after the very hard and tough measures, this is the best time to travel. So everybody is concentrating on the measures, everybody is paying attention to the measures, so sometimes you would feel this is a good time, there is not too many visitors to the country. And back to what I have been saying, that the corona have teach the customer some items. He has an effect on the earth. So sustainability, tourism should come into our mind. It's good that you are not in a crowd, so I shouldn't be travel during crowd time. So it's not like before. I would like to visit a country during the crowd time so that I can enjoy. No, I should go on certain lower seasons, of course, in order to enjoy more, have my distance, have my precautions. People would give me more attention, and I would feel more secure health-wise, and so on. So sometimes it's a positive thing that we could use. And again, since the corona, we have been seeing that open air, sea, all healthy stuff are good. So we should look again into that and make sure that we perform campaigns on that, like what's happening in the rest of the world. And in order to push again, because we have very good weather compared now to Europe. Europe is on snow, and they're really suffering from the weather and so on. So this is the time where you could attract business when people want to have a better weather. So you could work around the weather, you could work around the measures that's happening. There is a lot of campaigns happening right now locally. Maybe we should direct it more into the international level, along with all the treasures that we have been announcing, the palaces, the gym opening, the mummies that we have, and so on. So this could be of an attraction, definitely.
Which brings me to the next point. I mean, this 2020, there was a major discovery, or several major discoveries of Egyptian artifacts, and this was the main headlines around the world. This is something that the tourism sector is going to be using in the next season to attract tourists. And how are we going to highlight it for tourists? And is this interrelated to the digital platform that the ministry is working on?
Absolutely. If we start by the gem is prepared in a way that's very technology based. You would have a machine next to each mummy or each piece of art or whatever, talking about the history, showing you some photos, where to go to search about certain history about any monument, even for the kids. So they're basing themselves on the technology. Of course, now everybody is working with an iPad, with a mobile phone, moving with the technology in hand. And this is how you show everybody, if you are traveling, that you are in a peaceful area, in a beautiful weather, and it takes you no time. You're at the same moment, life with the other party. So this is definitely getting along. Having said that, technology should be one of the main targets that we should aim in order to improve the marketing and do more social things. not only the gem and the treasures and all the culture and so on. We just had an international games here taking place. So all these are parts of the marketing campaigns that we should target and push in order to go in parallel with technology, with what we are doing, with the measures, educating people. What would you see? How would you be safe, health-wise, with your family and secure, and so on.
What I found interesting as well was that there were a few influencers and celebrities that came and visited Egypt. The ministry itself and the tourism sector managed to use this as a very important tool. They gave them special tours and showed them the works, how Egypt is amazing and all of that. And they ended up with beautiful pictures online on Instagram or Facebook. Do you think that this is going to help attract more tourists, because these people have followers and they see these pictures and want to see more of the country? Do you think this is something that is a useful tool?
Absolutely. Marketing now is depending on such memories.
Yes.
A photo is a memory. So the more you have memories, the more you have photos, the more you have followers, the more you talk positive about things is part of the marketing. So definitely it will remain when things go back or starts to get smoother and so on. When people are having the vaccine, which we started to talk about as well, in order to encourage the tourists to come back to Egypt, definitely it will be part of the campaign. Though we should stress more and more on things that should happen, our plan of action, how are we fighting the corona, what measures are we taking, and so on.
Can you tell us a bit about the Grand Egyptian Museum itself? It was intended to open before the pandemic, but then the pandemic hit and these plans were crushed. It's a good thing that it didn't open during the pandemic, because it would have been, there's no tourists there to enjoy this grand opening. There's anticipation about it around the world. People are talking about that it might be unveiled or open towards the end of the year, maybe beginning of the next year. If this does happen, will it be something of an event, or is it just going to be, something that we host locally? Are we planning on broadcasting it internationally? What exactly is going to happen when it comes to the Grand Egyptian Museum?
Well, if we are talking about the previous plan, it was like a grand opening, and it was one of the events for the world 2019.
Yes.
Of course, due to the corona, things have been postponed, and plans changes, of course. We had some discoveries, as you just mentioned, so it could have been related, because there was the plan that we have pharaonic moves and tours around the city, so that everybody enjoys the grand opening. Definitely having technology now in place, we're starting to broadcast some teasers, as we say in marketing, in order to show the world what is going to happen. We have an area where you restore the mummies, so these people are working like this, they're doing this and that. So it's like teasing campaign and making them enthusiastic to come back. But still nobody or the inaugural ceremony have not been revealed fully due to the circumstances. Should the world go faster into the vaccine and things go smoother, flights resumes with a certain capacity, I think we would, the ministry would be able to reveal the plan again, what's going to happen. But right now, things are a bit unclear until things clears in January.
I'm sure it's going to be an amazing event either way. Whatever plan they have, it's going to be amazing. We're going to take a look at another report and then focus more on specific kinds of tourists, which are the Russian tourists. So we're going to take a look at this report where the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities is currently trying to attract tourists from around the world, and this includes the Russian tourists. Part of the efforts to increase tourism is by creating attractive offers and targeted ads, and we're going to take a look at a report about this.
Egypt's tourism sector is eyeing a gradual recovery after revenues plunged by nearly 70% to $4 billion in 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, the tourism minister and travel companies said. Russian accounts of a large chunk of tourists visiting Egypt were at its highest, 3 million Russians visiting Egypt. Following safety inspections of Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada airports in Egypt, two major destinations for Russian tourists, Russia announced that it would increase the number of its flights to Egypt starting February the 8th. In addition, Russia's North Star Airlines began selling tickets for a once-a-week flight between Cairo and the Russian city of Rostov-on-Don after obtaining a permit from the Russian federal authorities. The company said in a statement that it had received the necessary documentation to operate a flight once per week between the two cities starting February the 20th. The company is known for organizing medical tourism trips to China and entered the Egyptian market in December 2020, according to the statement. The number of tourists visiting Egypt sank to 3.5 million last year from 13.1 million in 2019, according to Tourism and Antiquities Minister Khalid Al-Anani. Foreign occupancy rates in Egyptian hotels dropped to just 10 to 15% of 2019 levels. Tourism accounts for up to 15% of Egypt's national output and is a key source of foreign currency.
And welcome back, and we're joined over the phone by Karim al-Manabbawi, a tourism expert. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us on To The Point. I'm joined by Dr. Nagham Mohammed Ali, and we were talking about the tourism sector and how to revive it in this country. And we were about to take a turn to look at the Russian tourists coming into Egypt and how about the resumption of flights and all of that. Can you give us a broad idea of how you see the country reviving the tourism sector in Egypt?
Well, we have to accept the fact that it's going to take some time. And resuming of business will take off slowly. Mm-hmm. When it would resume, it will take off slowly and will create confidence all around to other people that are still fearing to travel generally or to Egypt specifically. Mm-hmm. It's true that we've heard some talks that there are some flights planning to resume. There are some specific airlines.
Yes.
That planning to increase their frequency in a month's time or so. All this is speculation, estimation. We have positive expectation for the summer season. We have also airline. We had a big meeting yesterday with a few major airlines, and they have some confidence that with the vaccination all around, that will increase the number of people who can travel with confidence safely.
Yes.
So this is based on which there is a plan to increase the frequency of the airline worldwide, starting from summer and of course into Egypt.
How can the tourism industry in Egypt and the Ministry of Tourism reassure people around the world about safety measures, about coming to Egypt during the pandemic? I mean, this is something that's going to be going on for a while. It's not going to go away this year probably, even with vaccines. How can you reassure tourists that it's safe to come here and, you should come visit the country?
Well, now we are in the situation of showing figures. We have to show the increasing number of visitors coming. Mm-hmm. So showing that it's no longer now, if you really want to give a strong impact, it's no longer to show it by months, maybe show it by week. That the first week we had X number, then the second week we had X plus, and third week we have X plus plus, and so on. And showing that the return was very safe, they didn't pick up any infection while they're in Egypt. This is one of the things to show positive situation. Also, the occupancy of the hotels. This is another way of showing that there is business coming. There is no complaints of any infections while being in Egypt, and I hope that would be the case. So the shorten is no longer to show how many you had per year.
Yes.
It's not even per month, but I think it's going to make a good marketing impact if you show the increase of the weekly number of visitors and the increase of frequency of the airline, because it's very well known that the airline do a lot of analysis before increasing frequency. So if we share the fact that so many airlines are increasing the frequency to Egypt, that also will give some confidence to the travelers.
There's talk around the world about vaccine passports. Is this something that you're discussing as well? I mean, obviously in coordination with the other ministries in Egypt. Is this something that may be required of certain tourists coming into the country, or their countries requiring, if they want to travel, that they need to have a vaccine passport?
It is actually a subject that it's under discussion throughout the world. And who will issue this passport, and what's the stamps that you need on the passport, and you know that some of the vaccines you need to be vaccinated twice, so how would you show this? It's under discussion worldwide, but I can assure you also that it's currently, as we speak, it's under the discussion between the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Health. How this could be implemented, how can we open the borders for the vaccinated people, and even more. But it is a discussion. I mean, there are still procedures. It needs to be communicated and agreed upon, not only in Egypt, but it's also between Egypt and the country that will be visiting. So it needs some coordination overseas and locally, of course. We're currently, as far as I know, they are currently discussing between both ministers, and they would need also, whatever they agreed upon, then they would need to discuss it with, whichever country whereby we expect some visitors from.
Okay, Karim Menabawi, tourism expert, thank you so much for joining us over the phone. Can you tell us a bit about the vaccine passport thing? Have you as an industry discussed this? And is this going to be not just a local coordination, but an international coordination when it comes to this sort of thing?
Of course, it's now on everywhere, on the sites, that this should be the new strategy. If you remember earlier, everybody was traveling with a passport against certain diseases. So I think we're back to this again. But this will be now a condition to travel. It should be taken on a higher level, I think, from the individuals. It should be taken on the health, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, tourism, number of ministries, in order to have it with the right technology implemented, because this could be as well a way to proceed for the whole world. Now it's the case that they could send you by the passport control the vaccine certificates or whatever, whether it's positive, negative, because of the languages as well. Because if you issue one here, it might be in Arabic. No, it has to be certified in a certain way, with certain conditions, terms, whatever the other countries are providing or asking for. Same here, vice versa. What we are requesting and asking for, and what are the rest of the conditions should, God forbid, anybody is sick, what should happen in this case, whether he should go into quarantine, what are the measures, the standards, because this show how professional and how you are actioning things to the right direction and according to what the health organization is saying. So I think it should be taken on a higher level with a quite an importance and to cope as well with what should happen in future, like what we were discussing, opening of the gym. So there would be a lot of people coming, and I'm sure the technology would assist a lot of the employees upon arrival and so on, how to make things smooth and easy as well.
Well, let's get back to the Russian tourism specifically in Egypt. It's a big chunk of the tourism sector, and the Russians, well, they like visiting the sea-related tourism, where they go to the Red Sea, Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada. what has the industry itself done in the past year, for instance, to, you know, make it more enticing for these tourists to come back?
Well, there was a lot happening between 2015 up
Yeah.
till today.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of inspection trips happening, a lot of political surface movements. The inspections have asked for a lot of new measures, like the machines for the luggage, like
Yes.
the personal security, like a lot of measures that has been taken and has been implemented. This was not implemented only for the Russian tourism, but for the tourism in general, for Egypt in general, just to ensure or to make the whole world feel that we don't have a problem.
Yes.
We are, like rest of the world, trying to make it safe for your trip and to make it easy, smooth, though we are taking the right measures
Yes.
to assure your safety and security. The fact that we have lost at a certain stage the Russian tourism
Yes.
made Egypt work around other markets that has been neglected. So it has been a positive and negative things. But now any move for the time being from any direction, from any nationality would be a plus for us in order to resume the moves that has been going. Some parts of the world would work around summer, some others would work around winter. So we need the mix.
Yes.
And all the eggs in the basket. So definitely it's an important thing that we should work around. We have worked around sustainable tourism. We have worked around eco hotels.
Yes.
We have worked around resources. So there is a lot of things happening, not targeting only the Russian tourism, but it's, as you said, it's a big chunk. So we needed to get back the field or the market that has been filling our hotels.
Russian tourists are return tourists, right?
There is no specific announcement set, though we have flights resuming since September.
Yes.
Was 3 times, now it's 5 times a week.
Yes.
Different 8 cities.
Yes.
This is all announced, but the numbers are not guaranteed. Who will get a flight and who will get a certificate, because we have measures as well to enter the country. So unless you are doing the measures properly, so you might not have your flight or your visit.
Yeah, but before the pandemic and before the halt of the Russian flights to Egypt, were the Russian tourists the kind of tourists that you would see returning back, or are they one-time visitors for the country?
Talking about before 2015,
Yes.
yes, they were quite repeaters.
Yes.
As we said, repeat guests.
Yes.
So they visit Egypt once and twice and thrice because of so many reasons. Weather,
Yes.
economy, the value for money,
Yes.
number of flights, a lot of offers that were
Yes.
done. There is a lot of Russian speaking are staying here in
Yes.
Egypt, so they're visiting their families. There is again mix between families, Russian and Egyptian, so
Yes.
it's a lot of things. So I think that was.
Do you think this is going to be what's going to happen in the future as well, once things are relatively back to normal?
I don't see a reason why not, especially that there is relations between the two countries. We have the, for example, the nuclear project happening.
Yes.
So this means that you will have traffic on the business level. So if you're having it on the business level, it will be related to the leisure level, because whoever is staying here will have his family, so it's a leisure trip. So I think it could come back, though economy has been affected in Russia, so might be of an effect as well on the numbers,
Yes.
unless you have charters coming back with
Yes.
certain budgets for certain people. So I think there is no reason when we're having good relations with the two countries.
There have been efforts to diversify the kind of activities that are around these Red Sea resorts, like creating museums, for instance. Is it something that the tourists coming in from Russia, they'd be interested in? And is this a way or a gateway to get them to go visit other areas with archaeological sites, not just, you know, Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada, get them to go to Cairo or Luxor and Aswan?
Absolutely, because sometimes you're having charter flights where you have to go Hurghada, or Hurghada, I don't know where, so you don't have the time to visit.
Yes.
So it could be an attraction. So it's the teaser again for a customer, or a way to attract customers to come back. Sometimes you would find among a group of tourists going to a resort, someone who's an Egyptologist, who's interested in history. So this might create the interest for him to come back. And on the other hand, for people who are not interested, because like Russians, they're more into Red Sea resorts and so on. So might be part of our history to show for recommendations, for photos, for social media. And this could be again a marketing thing, because if you're going only for a beach and you don't have any of the treasures being displayed, is different than, yes, I might have a visit for a museum where I could see or put a couple of photos that would create the interest for others, not only for me. It's an indirect marketing issue. So I think it's a good step.
Are hotels and businesses in these resorts offering up, you know, competitive prices, for instance? You're saying obviously it's a cheap destination, but recently, because of the pandemic, obviously, a lot of prices have gone down. Even for local tourists, it's cheaper to go to Sharm and Hurghada right now. Is this something that's going to continue on to keep attracting more tourists for the time being?
For the time being, yes, of course, because you don't have the traffic. But
Yes.
for future, it shouldn't be the case.
Yes.
Because you're getting a different customer. You are becoming a cheap destination.
Yes.
And being a cheap destination would disattract or discourage other natures of business, like incentive trips, like if you're coming for studying.
Yes.
Other tourists would be discouraged to come if it's a very cheap destination. In addition, you have to manage your quality. Now again with Corona, you're spending a lot on
Safety measures.
security, safety, disinfection, training, and you can't cope when things are very cheap. You have to maintain your hotel.
Yes.
You have to maintain anything, not only the hotel. If you're going to museum, you have to maintain the electricity, you have to maintain the equipment, ventilation, making sure that the ventilation is not coming with bacteria. So all this costs money. If you keep on just reducing and you're not focusing on your costs, then you're getting down with the quality. And this is something that's not good and will not be coping with what's happening now, talking about, if we're talking about the tourism, the new tourism that should take place. If you're talking sustainability of food, recycling items. So if you are using plastic items, you can't use it again, so you are destroying the globe. So this is again is what's happening with Corona and the healthy measures and so on and so forth. So I don't believe this should be the good strategy, especially if you're maintaining everything and keeping it to the top level.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't say, or if anybody is traveling abroad, yes, prices have been reduced, but to a certain level.
Yes.
Because again, you have to keep people alive. You are keeping jobs, you are keeping people who have been in the profession for so long, and you need them, and you have given them trainings, time, all the measures. So you don't need these people to be stolen to other countries and to other areas, and you lose them.
Yes.
Then you are losing more money, not only on your customer who is staying with you and you're not giving him the quality that you should receive. He will give a negative feedback. Yes. And you will lose your professional team. So definitely it shouldn't be the case. There has to be a stability and getting up a bit with the pricing until
yes.
you reach certain levels, again back to normal.
Something that's not really related to the Russian tourism in Egypt or tourism in Egypt in general. There was an article a few months ago about how the tourism sector around the world and travel generally is going to change forever because of the effects of the pandemic. Even if the pandemic ends, things will never be the same because, I mean, things can never be the same because of a lot of different reasons.
You have educated the customer, yes, actually, or the tourist, or any person around the globe, what's happening now.
Yes.
He has to care about his health. Then if he's going to a hotel, he has to care about his health,
yes,
his sustainability again of tourism, ecotourism, single-use plastic things, recycling. There is now the trend that the customer would like to know, how are you helping the social life around you. So if you are in Hurghada, you have certain areas that need to be preserved or protected, underwater treasures. So they would like to know what's happening with their money as well. So there is a lot of change, I think, that will happen around all this, what I've mentioned, recycling, plastic usage, sustainability, tourism, sustainability of food, again, being in crowds.
Yes, this is something that will be a problem for, I mean, people generally now are scared of walking around.
Of course, but it's not a problem. It's, again, back to having an action plan for the whole year.
Yes.
You don't only encourage people to come, or tourism to come during the peak periods, but you want to distribute it, whether with events calendar. If you're having an event like the World Cup that happened, then this is an event. Then the next event should be whether it's the next week or the next month, so that you make it along the 12 years that you're having a move. So I think a lot of changes that's going to take place.
Hopefully all the changes that are happening around the world are going to be for the better, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Nagham Mohammed Ali, the Regional Director for Marketing and Sales of a group of hotels and the co-founder of an NGO, Tourism Culture of a Nation. Thank you so much for telling us about the tourism sector.
Thank you very much.
It was absolutely enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This brings us to the end of this episode of To The Point. I'm Nagham Morsi. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for more.